My name is Frank Fougère. I'm an intellectual property attorney working for a company called Ananda IP. And I've been in Thailand for the last 10 years. And I spent also 4 years in China, in particular fighting and trying to catch counterfeiters selling fake products, all kinds of fake products. But today, I will focus in particular on harmful counterfeit products and more particularly on pharmaceutical fake products. Is the translation okay? Yes? Do you need me to speak louder or? Okay. So after a few preliminary remarks, I will tell you about the challenges regarding harmful counterfeit products. I will make some assessment on the type of actions and means to combat harmful counterfeiting. And I will provide you with some recommendations, and these recommendations will be both for intellectual property right owners as well as for international organizations, public authorities, and international donors. First of all, this presentation does not represent the view of my company or any of the clients we work for. This is my personal point of view. And every time I will mention the word harmful products, I mean to include both counterfeit and substandard products as per the definition given by the World Health Organization. For medicine, a counterfeit medicine is a product which is deliberately and fraudulently mislabeled with respect to the identity and or source. Counterfeiting can apply to both branded and generic products, and counterfeit products may include products with the correct ingredients or with wrong ingredients, without any active pharmaceutical ingredient, or with insufficient active ingredients, or with fake packaging. So this is a very broad definition, and do not get confused here, as some people sometimes are, between generic medicine and original medicine. Generic medicine can also be original, and it can also be counterfeit. In this presentation, I would look at both the intellectual property framework and legislation, as well as the non-IP legislative framework. When we talk about counterfeit or substandard products, obviously we are not just talking about intellectual property laws. There are health issues, customs regulations, consumer laws, and a lot of regulations that come in play to actually try to prevent these products from reaching the consumers. We will look at some practical case studies and give some example. Most of the examples will be taken from Thailand and neighboring countries. We will try to identify areas where further improvements are needed, and as much as possible, I will try to provide some recommendations. So first of all, when we talk about harmful counterfeit products, we have to acknowledge that the situations are very different in each country, but there are certain things we can say. For example, economical challenges. Countries, developing countries, developed countries are usually more exposed to counterfeit products than developed countries. This is due to many factors, but one of these factors is the economy, it's the purchase power of the consumer. Populations of poorer countries want to have the same products, brands, even pharmaceutical, as developed countries. However, they do not necessarily have the financial means to buy original products. In these countries as well, mobility might be not as important as in developed countries. So these people and in particular in the case of pharmaceutical, cannot easily transport from one place to the other. So they will try to purchase the product locally. For example, in some villages with the head of the village who will have some medicine. And counterfeiters are very clever to try to reach for this vulnerable population, which are in areas a little bit outside of the main urban areas in particular. If you look at the example of Cambodia, this is quite striking, and in the key priorities of the national plans of Cambodia, you will see priorities such as education, environmental sustainability, child mortality reduction, HIV, AIDS, malaria, where we will see it's a big issue regarding counterfeit products and other diseases. So we are very much looking at countries that are still are very much in need of access to products and of course access to original genuine products. There is also a link between poverty and counterfeit substandard products, as I mentioned, regarding the access to medicine. Some of the anti-malaria drugs that we can find in the region will be far inside the country. Populations, isolated populations, lack also awareness on real or fake products. If it is difficult for us with our training to distinguish the real products from a fake, it's even harder for someone who does not understand the concept of a fake product. And this goes also with the practices such as self-medications, people not being taught how to take the medicine. Infrastructure development, yes, some studies show as well that when it takes more than 3 hours for a sick person to travel to the nearest hospital, they might be tempted not to take medicine or to revert to other type of medicine, which in some cases might be counterfeit products. In poorer countries also, there is often a lack of regulation. Simply there are no laws existing or practice that are yet in place. Or there is little awareness on the enforcement possibilities, and the training of enforcement authorities is lacking. There are also some legal challenges, in particular in countries such as Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos, but also to a certain extent in Thailand. This comes from the law itself. For most of these countries, IP is still something fairly new. It's a new concept. And they have various types of law. Some inherited from a colonial past, some that are today being drafted, being written with outside support. So European experts will come and help drafting a law on geographical indication, for example. Next week you would have experts from the United States to help on the trade secret law. And another week, the same people will hear a different story from Japanese or Korean experts telling them how to write and interpret intellectual property laws. So in some countries, they have not yet built their own legal system, and they don't have yet their own identity. So it's a mix sometimes of written law or civil a law system or a common law system, which is the case in Thailand. And you may have conflict sometimes between the laws, but also regarding the interpretation of the laws. So if the consumer law or the health and safety laws are drafted in a different, with a different legal heritage than the criminal or the civil code or the IP laws, you will have situations where, from a legal perspective, it might be difficult to simply enforce the law. Then there are also shortage of legal expertise in most of these countries. People who are able, for example, to draft patent or to examine patent. In Thailand, patent pendency for patents, any kind of patent, but also pharmaceutical patent, is over 10 years. So it takes more than 10 years for a patent filed in Thailand to actually be granted. That's a major issue, because for 10 years you have a pending patent, something you cannot legally enforce. Many cases, the law exists, or it was written in a way sometimes to comply with international rules, WTO, the TRIPS, but there is still very much a lack of awareness or understanding on how to apply IP laws. Some laws are not clear regarding the sanctions, the penalties, or the remedies, or different agencies have different interpretation of the same law. Then there is an overall lack of resource, sometimes an overlap of competencies between various agencies, so you don't know whom you should talk to. There is also a lack of cooperation between enforcement authorities. So there's still a lot to do, both in terms of legislative improvements, but also in the interpretation and the way different actors work together. Another challenge is, of course, the corruption. It's a topic that it's an issue that is plaguing many countries, but in particular countries such as Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand, which are not ranked positively on the corruption perception index. This is an issue as well because it undermines the investor confidence. It undermines intellectual property right owners to do anything. They feel that the actions they take are diluted because the next day, if we take the example of DVDs in the street, for example, or MBK, just opposite this convention hall, you can raid the place every day, but the day after tomorrow, the same products will be back, the same people will be back selling the fakes. Corruption is also an obstacle to enforcement, especially in countries with low resources. So people who should actually inspect the quality of the product, I'm not just talking of IP enforcement authorities, but Food and Drug Administration or custom officers, they will simply close their eyes because they have a source of income. There are also some laws that are simply missing or that are incomplete. In Thailand, there is, for example, no provisions regarding the refilling. So if you take a bottle of shampoo or a bottle of alcohol or a bottle for oil for your car, if the bottle is original, if the packaging is original, but you just refill it with the fake content, this is not considered a trademark infringement. And this is a problem, because the fake alcohol that you drink is certainly not good for your health. Then you have issues like landlord liability. And in MBK, the person making money actually from renting the spaces for the sellers of counterfeit products to sell their product is the owner of MBK. Many countries also have not yet changed their law to take into account the online piracy and the fact for consumers to purchase all kinds of fake products on the internet, including pharmaceutical. Other laws such as the custom regulations are incomplete as well. In Thailand, custom authorities are not authorized to check products in transit for fake products. They can check products in transit for weapons, for drugs, but if they see fake products, they cannot intercept the shipment. Best they can do, and they rarely do it, it's to tell the port of destination that fake products are coming. That's also an issue. So what are the challenges of counterfeit and substandard harmful products? First, for medicine, it is estimated that 1 to 6% of medicine sold in developed countries are counterfeit. That includes all kinds of medicine: antibiotics, analgesics, antihistaminics, as well as comfort medicine. So a lot of people think, oh yes, fake medicine, I know, it's the email spams that I receive every day by fake Viagra, and I'm sure that is fake. Well, yes, most likely it is fake. But it's also all kinds of drugs, and in some cases, life-saving drugs. These medicines may or may not contain active pharmaceutical ingredients. They may contain inadequate dosage of pharmaceutical ingredients. They may cause death, failure of treatment, and for some of them, in particular for malaria, drug resistance. So because of the fake drug, you're actually creating a problem that is even bigger to solve. And in the case of malaria, I'm not an expert, but I'm sure my colleague will say a few more words about it. In the case of malaria, artesunate is the last line of treatment. So if this is counterfeit and if this creates drug-resistant malaria, what do we do? Millions of people could die. There are a few studies that have been conducted in the region. There are many operations and studies that have been done by international organizations as well as Interpol. And this was a good thing because it actually allowed for the first time to have some kind of statistics. The problem is sometimes we're talking about something but we cannot really evaluate. When we talk about fake pharmaceutical, usually pharmaceutical companies are quite silent regarding this issue. And most of these countries do not have proper records of seizures of number of fake products that they have controlled or seized. But this Interpol study in 2006, for example, 498 drug outlets were inspected, 451 drug samples monitored. First of all, they found out that the majority of drugs were not registered, and that among these drugs, a significant proportion were actually substandard or counterfeit medicine. So following this, there has been a lot of concern, and Cambodia has implemented good manufacturing procedures. They have adopted a policy of prepackaging medicine, and recent statistics show that the situation has improved in Cambodia in particular. Better awareness and also public ceremonies of public destructions of fake products have made the people realize that it is dangerous to buy pharmaceuticals in non-licensed drugstores or drugs that have not been packaged properly. These are some examples of fake medicine seized in Cambodia and destroyed. I'm sure Alicia, maybe you will talk more about this, these examples. These are some products of the FSP Mekong project, where you can see pictures of a destruction of fake products, including fake medicines. And these were some of the fake products that were seized in Cambodia through these actions, and you can see that most of these counterfeit medicines were coming from China, were manufactured in China. And this included antibiotics such as amoxicillin and Ampimex. The difficulty, of course, is to tell the difference between a real and a fake. And in particular, in the case of pharmaceutical, if you just look at the pill, it's extremely easy to make a pill. What's difficult is to have the proper dosage of active pharmaceutical ingredients in the pill. Well, that is not a problem for counterfeiters. They don't need to put any active pharmaceutical ingredient in the pill. They just need to have a pill that look the same shape, color, or marking. So you see, for example, the Viagra pill. It's not so difficult to copy that. And if you buy it outside the packaging, just looking at it would be extremely difficult for you to say which one is real, which one is fake. So you would have to test the product, whether it contains pharmaceutical ingredients or not. For some products, it might be easy. With a mini lab, you may, within a few hours, be able to tell which pill is real, which one is not. But for other medicine, you have to send them to labs, and it could take months. And by the moment you have the results that this product was fake, many may have been already sold or distributed, and you may be chasing a counterfeiter that is not there anymore. So there is this issue of identifying the fake products. Counterfeiters are also very clever in imitating the packaging, even when the packagings contain some anti-counterfeiting technologies such as hologram. You see the holograms over there for artesunate, showing the mountains of Guilin in China. Even that they managed to imitate and to fake the hologram. The other products actually show you some packaging, real and fake, and again, you know, the packaging of pharmaceutical, it's just paper, print, and ink. It's not so difficult to print fake packaging. This is a picture showing a factory in Guangzhou in China that is making fake pharmaceuticals. So you can see by yourself that this doesn't look really much like a real and clean laboratory where pharmaceutical products should be made. And this shows the result of an investigation made in 2010 for a large pharmaceutical company. And you can see on this places of production, so where labs were found. They found some in China, in India, and places where they managed to seize over 100,000 units of fake products. The red arrows show the channel of distribution of this fake medicine. What is interesting in particular in this case study is that you can see that the production is localized in Asia, but that the distribution is not limited to Asia. It actually goes to Europe and to America. Some well-known examples of counterfeit drugs causing people dying for vaccines in Africa, cough syrup in Haiti and India, Panama, and of course more recently scandals regarding the Tamiflu, where even some counterfeit Tamiflu products were seized in the United States, showing how the counterfeiters managed to penetrate the distribution chain and manage to have their products being sold, even in countries where sale of drug is very regulated. Apart from medicine, you have cosmetics. There are numerous examples. Maybe you've seen in the press cases of women using whitening creams and causing damage to the skin, or even in this case, which happened in Cambodia, where a woman died after using a whitening cream. Veterinary products, I think that was that was one example that was reported a few weeks ago when you had the first part of this conference. But Bangkok Post article say that half of Thailand's glutaraldehyde imports are fake, which is an organic compound used in disinfecting poultry and swine facilities. So if half of it is fake, and if there is what there is right now in China with bird flu, then we are using a product that is not efficient. So maybe it's better not to use anything. Other challenges, alcohol. So alcohol is an harmful product by itself. I'm sure you all know that. But when it is counterfeit, it can be even more harmful. I had the chance for 4 years to work for an alcohol company in China, and in particular trying to catch people making fake bottles of whiskey. And we found that in some part of China, I will tell you the brand, which was Chivas in this case, we found that up to 80% of the Chivas in some rural areas of China were counterfeit. So people will go in KTV and they would drink what they thought to be original whiskey and paying, of course, for the bottle. The actual content of the bottle for the counterfeiters to produce was 10 yuan, which is about €1. And that was actually the price at that time that Pernod Ricard was paying to get back his empty bottle. So they had to pay to get back the bottles. Later on, they moved to try to have anti-refilling caps on their bottles. But even that, counterfeiters managed to find ways using syringe to actually refill original bottle. Now remember that in Thailand, refilling with a fake content is not a trademark infringement. There's nothing wrong in doing that under IP laws currently. Food products. In 2008, 1.9 million counterfeit food products were seized at the EU border. Sometimes these products are deadly. We think, of course, of the baby milk scandal in China. In Thailand, we recently, and the case is not over actually, we recently had a case of fake tuna produced in Thailand and exported to the Middle East. The company, or the companies, because it might be several companies, are somewhere located in the south of Thailand. So if you know of any tuna producer in the south of Thailand, please let me know. That will help my investigation. Other challenges, of course, for toys, batteries, spare parts, printer components. Here, 12% of the European market of these products are actually counterfeit products. You have spare parts, counterfeit spare parts in plane. It is estimated that 2% of the spare parts used in plane in the world today are counterfeit. The crash of the French plane, the Concorde, reportedly was caused by a piece of metal that fell from a previous plane, and that piece of metal was actually not an original part. 166 airplane accidents occurred in the USA in the last 20 years, caused by counterfeit spare parts. 10% of US planes contain fake spare parts. So what is the counterfeit? What is the counterfeiting about, and why do counterfeiters feel the need to copy brands, patents, and infringe others people's rights? Well, in the case of technology or know-how, clearly making a fake product is the opportunity to take over IP rights without having the need to do any R&D. You do a reverse engineering, which is far less costly than to develop an original product, and you take over the IP rights. In case of brand, trademark counterfeiting, you are trying to appropriate the brand image, the notoriety of the product. And in general, you're trying to benefit or profit from the investment made by the original owners in terms of marketing or research and development. This is not something new. You have actually in Paris a museum showing the origins of counterfeit products. This is a Roman amphora that is actually imitating a Greek wine. So already at that time they were lying on the indication of origin of the product. In some countries also, copying might not be considered in a negative way, in the same way as we do, for example, in Europe. In China, for example, the art of copying, of being able to make a perfect copy, is actually something regarded positively. In art, regarding calligraphy, if the student is able to copy the master's work and his copy looks as good as the master's work, this is a very positive thing. When you look at an old Chinese building, you know, they will change maybe parts of it and put new wood, new paint. They will not care trying to restore the 200 or 300-year-old piece of wood because they want something that looks good and new, and that will be different in France. You know, we recognize that the person who originally did the work, so we do much more restoration work. We don't change things in the same way. So I'm not saying that culturally Chinese people are programmed to copy, but certainly we have a different cultural approach to the phenomenon of counterfeit products. This is a picture of the world in the 70s. You can see the countries producing in yellow, producing fake products, and in red the countries consuming fake products. At this time we are talking of people traveling to Asia and bringing back maybe some luxury products, some t-shirts, some Lacoste, polos, and so on. In the 80s, it's interesting to see that first the volume of counterfeit products increase, but also that less rich countries or less developed countries become also consumers of fake products. In the 90s, consuming countries include Africa, and this is when we have the cases I just mentioned about regarding fake vaccines and so on. So we actually have the beginning of diversification of counterfeit products. We are not talking anymore of clothing items, luxury products. We are now talking about pharmaceuticals, spare parts, and everyday product. And this is a picture of today's world, where you can see that the production is still very much concentrated in Asia, in particular in China. But again, this is not surprising because most of the products are today produced in China. And maybe with the exception of the North Pole or the South Pole, you will find fake products everywhere in the world today. I was a few weeks ago on the Champs-Élysées in Paris, where you have the Louis Vuitton shop, and a few meters away, close to the Arc de Triomphe, there were 2 or 3 people, selling fake bags on the sidewalk. So I couldn't resist and take a picture, because sometimes we, as Europeans, we come and we tell people, you have to respect intellectual property, you have no political will, and so on. But actually, everywhere, including in Europe, we have fake products. Why is counterfeit so popular? First, because it represents a lot of money. It's a very lucrative business. It's about 7% of global trade. And it's a business that is less dangerous as selling drugs, for example. You know, the fines or the penalties if you get caught selling fake products are far less than if you are selling drugs or weapons. So for a lot of organized groups and organized criminal groups, counterfeiting is a great source of income. A lot of terrorist activities are actually funded by the trade of counterfeit products. And today everything is copied, so you are consuming fake products sometimes without knowing it. Food, detergents, alcohol, perfumes, cosmetics, you name it. Even the price is not something that can tell you today how to distinguish a real product from a fake product. In some cases, when we assist our client, we find out that the counterfeiter is actually saying the fake at a higher price than the original product of our client. Counterfeiters also are very clever in having the fake products going through the borders, and the methods of transshipment are very similar today to what drug trafficking is about. So here you have pieces of wood, and inside you will find cigarettes. Here you have some more pieces of wood, and again inside you will find cigarettes dissimulated. Sometimes you have to destroy the product to actually see the fake product under it. So imagine you are a custom officer and you open a container with thousands of bags in it. Even if you have time, you are not going to start ripping off a lot of products, possibly to find in the middle of the container a few hundred fake products. So it's really difficult to stop the trade of the international trade of counterfeit goods. Also a problem is cases of passing off. So it's not directly an infringement, but they clearly try to benefit from the reputation, in particular of a brand. So here you have batteries, SQNI, or socks, Ivaiki, which sounds very much like Nike. You have shampoos called OK. Not sure it's okay to use for your hair, but sometimes it's the packaging that is similar. Here this case is a bit of a difficult case because it's for the Chinese consumer, and the two products are sold next to each other in the supermarket, right? So the packaging, the design of the packaging look very similar. The concept is the same, but it's not entirely the same. Rejoice, it's not elegance. So it's not directly a trademark infringement because the words are different. There might be some intellectual similarity, but they are different. The only thing here that is the same is actually the Chinese name. The Chinese characters are the same. But in case one applicant has not filed a Chinese trademark, it might not be a trademark infringement. In China, you will find counterfeit cars. This one is my favorite. I like BMW, but there is a BMW against BYD, and this is the brand of BYD. That actually occurred a few years ago, and BYD went all the way to showcase their products in a car fair, in a car show in Germany. So you can imagine the reaction of the Germans when they saw that arriving in Europe. And things have changed. Today, BYD is the #1 applicant in China for patents. So they were maybe one of the greatest copiers, and today they are one of the greatest IP users in just a few years. And yes, only in China you can find KFG, which I have no idea what it is. All right. To conclude, I would just tell you a few things. How can IP right holders protect their right? there are different technologies that are available, in particular for packaging, holograms, invisible inks, some even more elaborated technologies such as the combined hologram and RFID tag. So here, if you actually try to break or to remove the sticker, the hologram, that will break the RFID tag in it, and therefore you will know that this packaging has been altered, tampered. And there are many, many things, such as barcodes, a specific product registration number, micro letters, chips dissimulated in products. I represented a few years ago a company making strollers for baby, and I was completely unable to actually recognize the real from the fake until the French company making this stroller said, you know, we have a secret. In each of our products, we are hiding a chip. So then we could actually start, you know, distinguishing the real from the fake. Some products, and this is confidential information, some products, even luxury products, they have defects, they have known defects in their products. Of course, they don't want anyone to know about that. But when the counterfeiters make the product, they actually make it without the defect. And therefore, they are able to tell the difference between a real and a fake. And sometimes they keep this strictly confidential because this is the best thing. Nobody knows about it. Only a few people are able to tell. So what recommendations can we make? For intellectual property right owners, first of all, you need to file trademarks, patent, copyright, design application. You need to have a strategy. Clearly, if you don't know why you are protecting your IP assets, then you shouldn't bother protecting them. Or maybe you should, but if you do not have the proper strategy, you will certainly fail in enforcing your right. You need to complete any filing strategies of your IP rights with contracts. A lot of the holes that occur are usually originating from employees of your own companies or business partners. So here I'm just citing a few agreements that companies may use in which they need to have sound IP provisions to protect the IP assets. You need to make sure you have a good traceability for your products and a clear way to identify your products and to teach or train people to recognize real from fake. Train your staff, train your customers, and raise awareness. Some companies choose to make the final consumer the investigator in the sense that when the consumer buys the product, he has the possibility to check whether the product is real or not, such as, you know, taking a picture of how do you call this, the code with your phone that will link to internet and confirm that the product is a real product. Also, never feel that you are alone in fighting. It's always helpful to join forces, even with some of your competitors or other IP owners. Work closely with the authorities and try to learn and develop best practices. Recommendations for public authorities, more clearly, a few are obvious, but sometimes it takes a lot of lobbying to actually manage to make concerns of industry heard by public authorities. Penalties should be deterrent. If it costs more to hire a lawyer, and if the penalties are so low that you cannot even compensate your lawyer's fee, usually companies, in particular SMEs, will not take action. They will not try to enforce their right because it's a cost issue. It would be good to have a system to punish more harshly people committing willful infringement, in particular for products that are dangerous for health. It's not normal in a way that if you make a fake T-shirt, you have the same penalty as a guy who's making a fake vaccine that killed children. So the penalty should be different. I'm not saying that we should have the death penalty like it is the case in China, but in terms of the fine, in terms of the penalty, in terms of the imprisonment, there should be, in my opinion, a distinction in the law. Same thing. Why are the fines, and I'm talking here about Thailand, the same for a trademark infringement and for a patent? You know, it costs very little to make a trademark, but it can take millions of dollars and years to develop a patent, a life-saving drug. So the penalty should be stronger, in my opinion, for the IP assets that have the greatest value. It would be also helpful in current IP laws to have damage calculation provisions. Very often there is the law, but then when you go in front of the court, you say, why are you deciding this amount? And there is no precedent, there is no case law, there's nothing you can rely on. It's not clear why one person has to pay 10,000 baht and another one has to pay 100,000. So there should be better clarity and an increased legal certainty that the people who get caught get sentenced. Should also avoid situation where there is a discretionary power for this deciding whether the counterfeit goods should be destroyed or not. Even if the products are not dangerous for health, it's not a good thing to allow fake products to go back in the market. Even if you think there are people in need who might need clothing, for example, it's not a, in my opinion, again, it's not a good practice to say that, you know, some fake products could go back in the circuit. Because usually when these fake products go back in the circuit, they do not reach the people they should, but they are being sold again and again, and they are again mistaken for real products. Anti-corruption provisions should be adopted. Here there are some very obvious situations that we all know in Thailand. If you try to raid the street of Pat Pong, for example, which is a private street, you will never find any police officer who will come with you to raid this, because they actually collect every month fees from sellers in the street to sell counterfeit products. So it's a never-ending problem. Adopt anti-refilling, data protection, landlord liability, and online piracy law. This is something that is urgently needed. Continue training. This is very important. Never assume that the officials you talk to have a clear understanding of what your products are, and never assume that they are able to distinguish real products from fake products. So if you have the possibility, you know, provide training for them, spend time to work with them and show them how to distinguish the real products from the fake. That would help them acting ex officio, meaning that when they have a suspicion that the product is fake, they will be able to contact the right owners. So you have to be proactive here. Do not just think that or point out that the government saying they are not doing anything to protect my right. You also need to be proactive and teach and train them. Specialized jurisdiction and courts should also be promoted. There is a specialized court in Thailand, there is another one in the Philippines, there is one in Japan. But overall in the ASEAN, there are still a lack of specialized judges who actually understand what IP is about. And without these specialized people, how are you going to explain technically what is a patent infringement on a pharmaceutical and how it is important? Then coordination between agencies, in particular enforcement agencies, and the industry should be improved. There are a lot of things that exist, MOUs and so on, but at the end of the day, a lot of things are still being done without proper consultation from the industry, in particular from the pharmaceutical industry. All right, I think I spoke too long, as always. Thank you for listening, and I will pass the mic to Mark, and I will stay with you for Q&A after. I propose we do all the presentations now. If you guys want to go and get a coffee or a cake, please feel free to do so during the presentation. All right? Yes. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, so I will stand if you don't mind. So my name is Alicia Hartmann, and I work for the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs on a project specifically on counterfeit goods that have a negative impact on health and security. So we do not care about the brands, we do not care about the patents or whatever, we only care whether the products that we are working on are bad for health or security. We mainly work on medicine, fake medicine, because it is unfortunately one of the biggest dangers that we find in Southeast Asia. So I work specifically for the Observatory on Illicit Trafficking. That is a project of the French Foreign Ministry. And I work mainly on Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. For these research, we mainly rely on people who either have experience in Southeast Asia and come from European countries, or Thai, Lao, Vietnamese, Cambodian researchers, so that they will have a more clear understanding of the situation in the countries. And we also try and figure out what the importance of cross-border trafficking, and how something that, as we've seen, for example, the flu in China, can come down to Vietnam, which is something they're very concerned about, through smuggled poultry. They basically sell, it's not counterfeit, because it's obviously animals, but they do not respect the level of tests, sanitary tests that are in place, and then they go across the border illicitly, and then they are sold in Vietnam. And because they are not tested by the Vietnamese government, because they cross the border illegally, then there is a big chance that at one point some infected chicken will cross the border and go down Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and wherever, spread it. And if you can imagine this with chicken, which, let's be honest, are pretty big, and you need to transport in some sort of fridge, you can think about fake medicine and how small people can smuggle pills on them, just going through the border. And if you read the news, you will see almost every day in the Bangkok Post or The Nation or any newspaper from the region, you will read about fake medicine sometimes. Most of the time you will read about drugs. But if you think about a yaba pill and how it is easy to transport it through the border, it works the same with fake medicine. And the problem is as well that fake medicine are usually following the same path as drugs. So once you have a drug dealer who knows how to make drugs go from, let's say, China and to Vietnam and wherever, you just do the same with fake medicine, and that's how it goes. So this is what is interesting for us and what we're trying to highlight, and then write research papers on it and then put it on the internet so that people are a little bit more aware. But admittedly, this is sort of high-level information. The second part of our work is communication information, and this time we try to reach people who are more like you and I, who are not researchers, who will maybe not even know that fake medicine exists. Because let's be honest, we all know that we have fake Chanel bags and fake t-shirts, and that you can go to MBK and buy those. But most of the time, if you're sick, And whether you live in Bangkok or you live in Khon Kaen or in Vientiane, wherever in Southeast Asia or anywhere else in the world, before you heard about this exhibition, before you heard about this conference, did you really know that they were fake medicine? Did you ask yourself when you went to the pharmacy, oh, the paracetamol that I'm buying right now, is it counterfeit? No, because you have a certain basic trust in your doctor, in your pharmacist, and when you go to the doctor and the pharmacist and they tell you this is what you need to take, and you will believe them. And then suddenly, because of these exhibitions and this conference and the work that we're trying to do with communication, then you realize, oh, there is fake medicine. So I guess the first step that we need to work on is making sure that everyone is aware that there is fake medicine. And then you can decide what to do from there. So this exhibition that you see on you will see on the 8th floor here is mainly about that. We try to find a way to make the larger public aware of the problem of fake medicine, and then asked artists in the paintings to depict how the problem of fake medicine is affecting them and people around them in their countries. So you will see on the 8th floor what they thought about this. Then there was the another competition, a comics competition, which is going on in Thailand at the moment as well. And so it was in Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia, and they had to write a comic, like draw a comic about how they feel the problem of fake medicine is affecting fake medicine or fake products is affecting their everyday life. So you will see few of them have actually tackled the problem of fake medicine, and then some of them actually went on to talk about the whitening creams, which is a very wide issue in Southeast Asia, and also fake tires and fake alcohol, because it is true that fake medicine is something that we feel is very dangerous to your health, because as Franck said, either you take something and there's nothing in there, but you are trying to get a treatment for HIV, in which case you're putting your life in danger because you think you're getting a treatment, or you are getting something, you're getting a pill that doesn't have enough active ingredient, and then suddenly the virus becomes resistant, and then we have the problem with the malaria. And if you look at a lot of the articles right now in the Bangkok Post and the Phnom Penh Post and regional newspapers is that there is a big problem in Laos and the border of Laos and Thailand with malaria, because it's becoming very resistant to treatment, and it's something that all of us should survive, but because of that, people are dying, whereas it's supposed to be a very simple thing to fight against. So what we are trying to do with this exhibition, and then with the comic competition, and with some of the flyers that maybe you got outside, which looks like this and is in French and in Thai, and that we published as well in Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia. So this maybe look a bit like, oh, it's for kids, but it's a very concentrated information booklet. So you will have pretty much very simple sentences on counterfeit medicine that, of course, if you read it as an adult, then you think, oh, it's easy. But this way we can actually distribute it in schools or have also kids, because we realize that kids today will be adults tomorrow, and then you obviously hope that they will disseminate that information. So you have questionnaires and surveys, and then you also have those pictures of rooms, which basically explains that even though we are focusing a lot on fake medicine, there are fake products everywhere in the house. So I'm taking the first one is the kitchen, for example. And in the kitchen you can have fake appliances. So you can think, oh, that microwave was really cheap, that's good. Except one day it may set fire to your house. You have alcohol, as Franck was talking about. The bottle may look absolutely perfect, and then you start drinking it, and then the next day you're sick because the content was not what the bottle was showing. And then you can also get the bathroom with the shampoo. And as Frank was saying, sometimes you have the bottle and then you think the content is, okay, maybe it's a fake, but it's actually the right formula in it. But as with the whitening creams, you can end up with something that makes all your hair fall out or starts burning your scalp. And you know, sometimes you wash your hair and it falls into your face and then it burns your face as well. You have a lot of products that are not as dangerous as fake medicine, but are still very bad for you. And whether it's alcohol or a fake shampoo or fake whitening cream, it is very important to realize that even if you really want that product and the real one would be very expensive, paying half price for either paracetamol, and you think, oh, paracetamol is fine, it's just, you know, headache, if it doesn't work, it's not so bad. But then for some treatment that is more important than that, for shampoo, for cream or whatever, if the price is much lower than it should be, there is probably a reason for that. And then you're probably looking at a fake. Because, as Frank was saying, it's really difficult for us normal people, and even Frank who's specialized in this, to be able to tell the difference. I mean, you saw on his pictures, the Viagra, for example, it's absolutely perfect. But most of the time, for the Viagra pills, so they're blue, do you know what they use to make the color blue? In the fake Viagra pills, they will use paint, the one that you use to paint the walls. And if you're lucky, it's flour or cement or nothing bad in it. If you're not lucky, you're ingesting cement and things like that. So you might think it's not that bad, but if you take it only once, and inside there's just nothing, it's not that bad. If you take it once and there's mercury in it, in your whitening cream, then I'm pretty sure the woman who did that felt the difference. And so the thing is, before we can even try to fight against this, we need to tell people that they are fake medicine, and that you need to be sure that when you go to the pharmacist or to the doctor, your product is real. And as we were saying, it's very difficult, but if you feel sick and after a while, you know, don't realize any difference after a couple of days, then maybe go back to your pharmacist and tell them this is not working, because obviously there are people who are trying to get advantage of you and to sell you fake medicine, but the fake product, the fake medicine, can be introduced in the chain of distribution much higher up, and your pharmacist doesn't know either. So that is one of the main problems with fake medicine, I guess. You cannot tell yourself unless the difference is very big that if it's a fake or not. Sometimes your pharmacist will not be able to. So you really need to be aware of the fact that they are fake medicine. And then, as much as you can, figure out yourself that, you know, if it's 50% less expensive, then it's probably a fake medicine or a fake tire. And in the comics that you will see upstairs, there are a lot of people who realize that as well. And those are people from 15 to 25, so young people. They haven't had that much life experience, but realize that the price might be the first indication that what you're buying is a fake. I mean, we see it in MBK. If you're trying to buy a Ralph Lauren shirt, which would be 100 euros or 5,000 baht, usually, and you're buying it for 200 baht, I mean, you and I both know this is not a real shirt. It works the same with the rest of the fake products. This is the first indication. So I'm hoping that all of you here today will spread that little piece of information, that it works as well with fake medicine, with medicine. And then our last mission at the observatory is mainly to follow the news and follow not only for fake medicine but also for drugs, because as I was saying earlier, it is the same, basically the same path, the same networks that sell fake medicine and drugs, which is why sometimes in fake medicine you will find traces of drugs because they're made in the same places. So it will be, the drug will contaminate the fake medicine. If you want more information on the trafficking of all those fake medicine and drugs, Mark Hammond here, who is going to present after me, made a really nice documentary, very interesting and very full of information, and you can see it on the 8th floor as well. And it will be presented at the Alliance Française next week, if you want to see it as well. And Marc will obviously present this right after me. So, and he also did a short public service announcement on the dangers of buying medicine on the internet. Because as you might know, in Europe, it is actually, we have a pretty good safeguard around our medicine distribution system. So if you go to the pharmacist, you just assume that it's going to be a real medicine. But there are lots of things that you don't want to buy in person, like Viagra, maybe you don't want to go to your pharmacist and ask them, or a lot of different products that you feel too lazy to go to the doctor for, and that you will start buying on the internet. And Mark's documentary and his 3-minute public announcements will explain to you why that is a bad idea as well, and that you should be very careful with this. So basically that's what the observatory does and what we're trying to work on. Once again, any product that has an effect on security and health, and that is counterfeit. And it doesn't matter if someone asks me, oh, so which companies, pharmaceutical companies, do you work for? And that is very important to understand that we do not work for any companies. And when we seize medicine, we don't say, oh, this one is French, this one is French, okay, this one is French, cool. American, German, okay, so we don't care. You can sell those and we will just take these and we'll destroy them and do whatever. No. It's everything. We are not working for a company, we're working for the public, and we're trying to help destroy everything. And the only time that the companies actually help us is because, as Frank was saying, it's very difficult to know if it's a fake. Sometimes it's really, really well done. You cannot see, even if you've worked for years in that department, you cannot see. You look at the 2 pills and you don't know. And at that point, you realize that testing a pill is very expensive. And so that is when we actually work with the companies, is when we send them the products that are sold under their name and ask them to do all the tests. So they will pay for the test and then give us the results back, and then we can work from this and help, once again, help the general public. But we don't make any difference between German, French, American. We just seize everything, and as Frank was also explaining earlier about what do you do with the seized products, when the project that I work for seizes products, we destroy them, because it is very, very dangerous to just leave it to lay around somewhere. And corruption, once again, as Frank said, is a very big problem. So who knows, maybe there are a couple of police officers who have the key to that place, and then selling fake medicine is very, very lucrative as well. You can make a lot of money from it. So you just open the door, you know, just take a couple, come out of the office and sell some more. So it is very important to destroy them, especially fake medicine, because of the implication that it has and the consequences. So basically this is what the project is working on, and because we realize that we need to make the public aware of that problem, we have been working with Mark, who is here with us today, and he has been working on using his very good skills of directing, producing, and filmmaking to figure out the best way to put that message across to everyone. So I would like to invite Mark up here to explain to us what he does. Thank you.
So I'll be very brief, so we have some time to take your questions. For the last 5 years, I've been making documentary films, as well as curating the art exhibit on the 8th floor, to try to use media in many different ways to address this issue of the lack of awareness, the lack of public perception, lack of public understanding about this issue. You know, as Frank pointed out, one of the biggest problems, specifically in developing countries, is that most people are unaware that of the concept of counterfeit. I spent several days in several capitals throughout Southeast Asia, just taking my camera to the street and going up to people and say, do you know what counterfeit medicine is? Have you ever heard of counterfeit medicine? And I interviewed 100 people on the street and asked them. Of those 100 people, 50 had never heard of counterfeit medicine. Now I'm talking about a combination of people from Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia. So you've got 50% of the population. Half of the other 50% had heard of counterfeit medicine, but not really sure what it is. What does it mean? Is it something I should be concerned about? I mean, I know there's bad medicine out there. And so they would talk about, but they couldn't clearly identify any potential personal health risks to them. The last 25% of these 100 people, they knew very clearly what it was, what the dangers were, what they should do in terms of talking to their pharmacist, and the fact that they should purchase their pharmaceuticals at a licensed pharmacy. So, going back to the 50% who had never heard of it, we have a problem. The information that Frank presented is almost essential information in today's world to understand the nature of the black market. Because looking at his charts going back to 1980, the underground economy of the world is exploding. You can call it the dark market, you can call it the black market, you can call it a form of hyper-capitalism, because it's a type of capitalism that has no morality. Whatever you want to call it, it's getting bigger. And the products and services that the black market is selling is becoming more and more diverse, and a great many of them represent health risks, either personal health risks or kind of on a more collective basis. One of the things Frank was talking about was automobile parts. Sorry about that. And fake automobile parts are known to have caused accidents throughout Europe, and it's becoming more and more of a problem here in Thailand. So what is the takeaway of all this? What should we understand? We do have to put this message in the media, in the common discussion, in the press, that we are faced with an underground economy producing counterfeit and substandard goods that will affect how we live, that will affect our health, that will affect many things in relationship to the environment and the social life that we have. This problem is not getting smaller. The counterfeit pharmaceuticals, their early estimates from the World Health Organization in 2010 was a $75 billion business. And I've been at security conferences where people today say it's in excess of a $200 billion business. Why? Principally because of the internet. The internet is a very, very, very easy method of international distribution of counterfeit pharmaceuticals. And as much as you can say, well, shouldn't people think about purchasing from the internet? We still have this problem. We have to break this idea of trust. And that's too bad we have to break it. Because we go to our doctor, and the doctor says, oh, you have a stomach ache. And he makes a prescription. You go to the pharmacist, you give it to him, and he gives you the medicine for your stomach, and you go home. You have faith. The doctor is going to tell you what you should do to get better. You have faith. The pharmacist is going to give you a product that you're going to take and make you feel better. We can no longer live in that world. If we're going to be really black and white about the threats which are facing us, we have to start to question more things. We have to question what we eat, what we consume, what we purchase. All of these things are now susceptible to being produced by the black market. I think at the end of the day, where it's not a question of screaming, the sky is falling. There's dangers everywhere. There's dangers crossing the street. But the point is, we have to communicate a clear understanding of how the world works. Right? What Frank is saying, this is how the world works. You can take a bottle of Johnny Walker, right? And I've bought these bottles and refill it and sell it, right? I've personally been in the hospital with a guy who had liver failure from drinking Johnny Walker counterfeit. Okay, this is not a joke. If you see my film upstairs, I've interviewed a police captain in Trong who got called into a local hotel where a Thai man had taken counterfeit Viagra that he purchased here in Bangkok. Had a heart attack, died. Why do certain things exist? It's really strange, you know, because we're very comfortable buying a t-shirt that says Lacoste. We're very comfortable buying a DVD next door at BK. Nobody thinks twice about it. But why are we comfortable with that? I mean, it's a question to me, right? Why in about 2 hours I can go up Sukhumvit and stop at 45 places and buy counterfeit Viagra? Why is that? Why does this happen? Okay, we can say it's corruption. We can say the profit. We're saying, you know, we're willing to turn a blind eye. But at the end of the day, with many of these products, they exist because we purchase them. We go buy a counterfeit Louis Vuitton handbag because we want to. Nobody sees any threat to that. Nobody sees anything essentially a matter with that. To me, it's a question. It's a question which should be put in the public dialogue, right? Is this right or is this wrong? Right. And it's very interesting because as a filmmaker myself, of course, the infringement of copyright upon movies is a big issue for me. And I find it very ironic that one of the ways this problem is being solved is not that anybody is shutting down the people selling DVDs, but the fact of the matter is, for 100 baht, I can go to iTunes and rent a movie that actually will play the whole way through instead of a DVD that's going to crash, right? So technology in a way is supplanting itself and making copyright protection more feasible, right? At a price point which is the same to the black market. So to me, that's one kind of a positive thing. But again, the point is, you know, we have to look at our own behavior here. Why do we support this? Why do we think nothing of spending 100 baht getting a DVD across the street, which essentially, me personally, takes income? Because I also do dramatic films. I do feature films. So I lose income. Now, I worked 3, 4, 5 years making a movie, right? So obviously it's a personal issue. But, you know, when it comes to the things that, you know, are dangerous to us, you know, at the end of the day, my work, the reason why Frank is doing a lot of what he's doing, and Alicia and FSP Mekong, you know, is because, you know, we feel collectively that this message has to get out, right? That the implications and the proliferation of substandard and counterfeit medicines is a public issue. It's a public health threat, and it's something that has to be in the public dialogue. So, with that, you want to come up? We'll take any questions. Come, Frank. Yeah, so if any of you guys have any questions to either me or Alicia or Frank, please.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for the excellent presentation and the useful information. My question goes to Kun Frank. At your presentation, you mentioned about the illegal practicing, illegal refilling practices. Could you share with us more details about this problem that you have faced and how to handle this problem? Thank you.
Okay, it's a problem of an incomplete law in Thailand. It's a known problem, but the industry has been asking for many years to change it. There is currently a draft amendment that is being examined in Thailand to incorporate the refilling issue. The problem was that when the trademark law was written in Thailand more than 10 years ago, they defined trademark infringement as reproducing the trademark, forging the trademark, or modifying the trademark or redesigning the brand. But they only think of it as a two-dimensional thing. They did not think that the fake products could actually be the content. So the problem is, if the bottle of whiskey, for example, is the real bottle, if it's the real packaging, but the counterfeiters only change the content, then in this case, it is not considered a trademark infringement because the packaging has not been changed, the brand has not been reproduced, and there's been no modification to the packaging. There's only been a modification of the content. So, if you interpret the trademark law strictly, which is still the case, this is not a trademark infringement. This is what applies in Thailand is the general tort, so it's a general wrongful act, where the maximum fine is 3,000 Thai baht. So for something that can kill you, you risk 3,000 Thai baht. For me, it's just an example of how certain things cannot go on like that. It can't. And mention about luxury and Louis Vuitton bags and so on. Very few people know that luxury goods, fake watches, this is maybe 2 or 3% of the volume of counterfeit product. Do you know what is the #1 counterfeit product in the world? Do you think it's DVD or?
Watch?
It's actually cigarettes. Cigarettes are the product #1 counterfeit product in the world. So I'm not saying smoking is a good thing, but smoking a fake cigarette is probably even worse. All right, I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? Please feel free to ask, so then we can hear from you also. Can I ask you a question? Maybe I start with you. Why did you come today? What was your expectation? Did we interest you? Did we answer some of your concern?
เอาอย่างนี้แล้วกันนะผมต้องพูดไทยนะ
ได้ครับ
คือจริงๆก็เคยต้องซื้อของปลอมบ้างก็คือเป็นคนดูภาพยนตร์ตั้งแต่สมัยวิดีโอเทปจนเป็น DVD ปัญหาก็คือว่าของแท้มันแพงเหลือเกินค่าลิขสิทธิ์ค่าไลเซนส์ของคุณมันแพงมากๆนะครับปัญหาคือเราก็ต้องซื้อแต่ปัจจุบันเนี้ยอย่างผมเป็นคนดูภาพยนตร์ดูหนังสารคดีดูตัวนี้อะไรระยะหลังเนี่ยก็ของแท้เนี่ยDVD เนี่ยก็ราคาถูกลงใกล้เคียงกับ พอซื้อได้ก็ซื้อถูกตามลิขสิทธิ์อะไรไปที่เมื่อกี้พูดเรื่องเหล้าเรื่องบุหรี่เรื่องอะไรปลอมนะผมเฉยๆเพราะว่าคนจะติดไอ้สิ่งที่ไม่ดีก็จะติดของปลอมจะติดยี่ห้อด้วยเพราะว่าแรงกระตุ้นใจอยากให้ซื้อยี่ห้อนั้นยี่ห้อนี้หรือแม้ท่านต้องถือกระเป๋าหลุยส์วิตตองถือกระเป๋าหลุยส์วิตตองแล้วมันไม่ได้ห่อได้แต่ว่าคนที่จริงชาวตะวันตกเนี่ยเป็นคนที่ทำให้สร้างแรงผลักดันอยากจะมีแบบนั้นแบบนี้ใช่ไหมก็คนตะวันออกก็ต้องถือกระเป๋าลุยส์วิตตองปลอมบ้างปลอมก็โอเคเท่อะไรอย่างเงี้ยแต่ว่าผมเฉยๆกับมันนะฮะแต่เรื่องยาเนี่ยในเมืองไทยเนี่ยนะฮะถ้าปลอมเนี่ยนะก็คือที่คุณเห็นว่าถูกละแถวสุขุมวิทมีไวอากร้าปลอมอะไรซึ่งแล้วเชื่อไหมคนที่ซื้อเนี่ยใครซื้อรู้ไหมคนยุโรปกับคนฝรั่งซื้อนะฮะพอไวอากร้าไทยแลนด์ก็ไปซื้อไวอากร้าขององค์การเภสัชกรรมซึ่งทำผลิตราคาถูกกว่าฝรั่งซื้อไวอากร้าปลอมคนยุโรปซื้อไวอากร้าปลอมผมก็ไม่รู้ทำไมเขาถึงต้องมาซื้อไวอากร้าปลอมที่เมืองไทยซึ่งผลิตจากจีนมาหรืออะไรก็แล้วแต่จริงๆแล้วถ้าราคาค่าลิขสิทธิ์เนี่ยมันไม่แพงเกินไปนะผมเชื่อว่าเดี๋ยวนี้คนไทยก็มีกำลังซื้อพอจะซื้อที่ถูกต้องตามกฎหมายได้ไอ้เรื่องคอร์รัปชันเนี่ยไม่ต้องพูดถึงฮะทั้งโลกก็มีเหมือนกันมีมากมีน้อยมีอะไรซึ่งอีกนานอย่างโน้ตบุ๊กที่ตั้งอยู่บนโต๊ะอย่างนั้นนะถ้าโน้ตบุ๊กเพียวๆไม่มีลายเส้นของบิลเกตลงไปเนี่ยราคามันจะถูกไปครึ่งหนึ่งพอมีลายเส้นของ Windows เข้าไปใส่ปั๊บราคามันแพงมาอีกครึ่งหนึ่งถ้าราคามันไม่สูงมากเกินไปผมเชื่อคนเอเชียก็พอจะรับได้ในการที่จะซื้อลิขสิทธิ์ที่ถูกต้องตามกฎหมายนะฮะอันนั้นไปแต่ปัญหาขณะนี้เนี่ยหลายอย่างเนี่ยศาลอเมริกันเองเพิ่งพิพากษาบริษัทของบิลเกตเรื่องการผูกขาดทุกอย่างคุณต้องใช้ขั้นตอนของเขาหมดซึ่งมันผมว่ามันก็ไม่ค่อยแฟร์ที่ถ้าคุณไม่ใช้ของเขาเลยอะไรอย่างเงี้ยมันผิดซึ่งเป็นปัญหานั้นและก็หลายอย่างซึ่งขอโทษทีเรื่องกระบวนการลิขสิทธิ์กระบวนการจดลิขสิทธิ์เนี่ยมาจากชาติทางตะวันตกซึ่งคนตะวันออกเนี่ยผมเชื่อว่าคนจีนคนอินเดียคนไทยเนี่ยซึ่งผลิตยาทางธรรมชาติสมุนไพรหรืออะไรเนี่ยก็ไม่เคยจดลิขสิทธิ์แล้วเราคิดว่าสิ่งนั้นมันเป็นมนุษยธรรมซึ่งเผยแพร่กันได้แต่พอชาติตะวันตกนำไปจดลิขสิทธิ์ปั๊บนะฮะแล้วก็เอามาขายอย่างนี้แล้วก็ต่อไปคุณก็นำผลิตอีกไม่ได้ซึ่งยาเนี่ยต้องยอมรับว่าจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยคนทั้งโลกยังจำเป็นต้องใช้โดยเฉพาะคนทนยากจนก็ต้องใช้ยาเหมือนกันแต่เมื่อปัญหาว่าเมื่อผ่านค่าลิขสิทธิ์แล้วมันก็แพงซึ่งบางทีเนี่ยมันควรจะมีมนุษยธรรมในการที่บางอย่างเนี่ยให้กับคนอันนั้นได้อันนี้ผมว่าอาจจะพูดค่อนข้างจะเอาตัวเองเป็นที่ตั้งมากเกินไปซึ่งคุณมาในนามบริษัทซึ่งคอยดูแลเรื่องลิขสิทธิ์นี่ผมเข้าใจนะฮะแล้วก็แต่จริงๆแล้วในลิขสิทธิ์เนี่ยการค้นคว้าเทคโนโลยีที่ท่านทำภาพยนตร์เนี่ยหลายอย่างผมก็ได้จากการดูภาพยนตร์ที่ค้นคว้าหลายๆอย่างเช่นผมได้ดูเรื่องฟู้ดอินส์เนี่ยนะเรื่องอาหารซึ่งเป็นอุตสาหกรรมเนี่ยสุดท้ายเนี่ยมันทำลายมนุษย์เองอาหารเหล่านี้นะครับอันนี้ครับขอบคุณครับ
ขอบคุณมากครับ
back to the same old issues that when we talk about the copyright infringement, if you talk about the luxurious goods like Louis Vuitton bags that you said, of course he doesn't care much about those kind of the infringement of the IP right of those luxurious goods because it's pretty much up to the personal desire of people. But you have to say that when Westerners or the European manufacturers produce those goods, we, the Easterners, the Asian people, they wish to have those, the genuine goods, but the price is not affordable. So that's why they buy the counterfeit products. And when you talk about even Viagra, when you talk about fake Viagra, if you go to the Sukhumvit area, you may find that the consumer who end up buying the fake Viagra in Sukhumvit areas are foreigners and the Westerners, and he doesn't even quite understand why the consumer or the buyers are the Westerners or the foreigners for the fake Viagras. Even the notebook computers on the small table on the stage, if you think about the something like, if you talk about the notebook computer itself, it's not that expensive. But when we're talking about, the Windows, the copyright, it's make it to double the price of the notebook computer. And talking about the alcohol and tobacco, if they are the fake products, I mean, he's not the supporter for the tobacco and alcohol consumer already, so he doesn't care much. And he's originally, and now he said that the price of the genuine products have been down to almost as low as the fake products. People are prone to be able to afford buying the genuine products more because the price has been down already. So, and also when he talking about the fake medicines, we talk about, let's say that sometimes when the Easterner they produce some medicines, this is for be able to cure certain disease, but when the Westerner when they produce certain medicines, they do not think about the producing the medicine for the humanitarian cause. So we should think more when we produce the medicine, this is a necessary product and for the humanitarian purpose. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I want to say a few things on that because I understand and I hear this comment quite often, about the sorry. Sorry, I understood you in Thai, but I thought he was just translating for me. I didn't realize it was the translator. Sorry. Are you ready? Very good. Thank you for your translation. Yeah, what I wanted to say is, I understand what you're saying. This is an argument that is, often put forward. But there's maybe two things that you should know. A lot of people think of counterfeit products as something not being that much of a bad evil. When you buy a fake DVD on Silom, you're actually thinking, oh, this looks like a nice guy. It's a child selling fake DVD, and it's not cheap. Maybe I'm helping, supporting his family. After all, it's a job. The guy has a job. He's selling. One day he sells DVD, the other day maybe he sells durian. But the people behind are very well organized, and they make a lot of money. And these are the people we should worry about. These are criminal, organized crime. A few years ago, there was a story of a boat. I'm sure you heard about it. It was a boat in international waters, and they could see a small boat going to the big boat and coming back with the fake DVDs, CDs, and DVDs. So they knew somehow that on this boat, they must have the machine, which, by the way, cost more than $1 million to make fake CD and DVDs, that this machine must be on that big boat. But the big boat is in the international water, so it's not easy to go and legally take a ship in the international water. But one day the big ship comes close to the shore, so the police can go and they raid the boat, and they find packaging, but they don't find the machine. They don't find anything. And the big boat goes back to the international water, and then the small boat starts again to go and come back. The second time they raided, they had the idea to dive under the boat, and there they found that there was an opening, and that under this boat, a submarine could actually attach to the bottom of the boat. And when the police would come, then the submarine would just drop to the bottom of the ocean. Right? So if you have enough money to build or to have a submarine, you imagine how much money these people are making. These people do not pay tax. Sometimes they don't even pay their workers. I have a colleague in Thailand from another IP firm, and he raided a DVD factory a few years ago. And he told me that when they arrived, not only the counterfeiters were shooting at them with real guns, but when they actually entered the factory, they found women that were chained to the machine. These were slave workers. They were not even paying the workers. All right? So this is something, if you would see the entire thing, then maybe you will think twice before buying the fake DVD or CD. The second thing is, don't think that the price or that people who buy fake products always know they are buying fake products. The main problem today is that we are all purchasing fake products, but we don't know about it. And I give you one example. A few years ago, I was working in China for Danone Group. You know, they make the mineral water Evian, Yiyun in Chinese. And at that time, they had about 40% of the mineral water that was counterfeit in China. So I went to Shanghai, I met with the local representative there, and he gave me, you know, confidential information on how to recognize the fake packaging from the real one. And it was very hard, you know, you really had to look very closely. And Evian, you know, being French is, of course, something I drink regularly when I am traveling, because I trust a foreign brand in a hotel, and I'm ready to pay more for mineral water than, you know, a water that I don't know, or I don't know the brand. I was at Shanghai airport the day after, and before boarding on my flight, I buy a bottle of water, a bottle of Evian. And I was halfway drinking it, where I started to think, oh, by the way, I had this training yesterday, you know? So I started to look at the bottle, and I realized that half of the bottle I have just been drinking was a fake, which was really good because I could call my client and say, hey, they are fakes at the airport. But I really tell you, it felt really strange to have drunk half of a bottle of water and then suddenly thinking like, my God, if I didn't have that training yesterday, I would just be drinking a fake and I would not even know about it. Right? So you see, and it happens to us. I'm not saying that to scare you. It happens to us on a daily basis, that we buy things that they are, you know, fake batteries in the products we buy, that the toys that you give to your kids contained, you say lead in English, not lead, lead, that could be toxic, and so on and so forth, right? So we have to be aware of this.
I'd like to address your particular issue. It's not about a few foreigners buying counterfeit Viagra and Sucumfit. That's not what we're talking about here. They arguably are not very intelligent to do that. What we're talking about is almost every type of medication, whether it's a heart medication, anti-cancer medication, antiretroviral, painkiller, weight loss, diabetes, any type of medication you can buy, you can find in this country, in Southeast Asia, and in global markets around the world, counterfeit. A few months ago, I was in Pattaya with the Thai police, and we went to many different pharmacies. And we went to one pharmacy which actually we had not planned to go to, but we went in and came out with 5 bags. Anti-cancer, diabetes, heart medications, painkillers. Right? This is in the movie you can see upstairs. Right? This is just a very small, normal pharmacy in the middle of Pattaya. Right? Doesn't have foreign clientele, it's on the edge. This is not about foreigners, this is about all of us. And here in Thailand, this is about you. This is about what does exist. Right? It's not just about regulations of IP, copyright control. Right? These are real issues. But what's realer is the fact you can go buy something in a pharmacy that's going to hurt you. That's real. That's life here. So it's not limited to few foreigners on Sukhumvit.
Just on the topic of foreigners, because I think the question is also linked to the fact that basically, why do we come to Asia and tell you this is bad when people from our own country do the same and buy fake Viagra? But I think the issue, as Mark and Frank underline, is that it's not just you, it's also us who do not realize that the product is fake. And you know, young people, old people, whatever, they come to Thailand and they just want to have fun, and they say, oh, you know, Viagra is not so expensive here. Why do they think that? They don't think because it's not a real one. They just think, oh, you know, Viagra and whatever, or the t-shirt made in China. China, very close to Thailand. Oh, that's why it's very cheap. We don't, as Frank said, we don't realize, like before he said it, I didn't think that you could have fake Evian water. But as Mark said earlier, you have to not trust anything anymore. And the problem is, like living here and working in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Last time I was sick, I was in Samui, and I go to the pharmacy, and I know you sell fake medicines in Thailand and everywhere. And then suddenly, I'm like, oh, so I will buy this medicine because I feel sick and I want to feel better, but I don't know what it is. But I work with this, so I know the danger. If you don't know the danger, then you will never think about it. Never. It's just, you can be Thai, you can be French, you can be German, American, Argentinian. You don't think about it because you don't know about it. And so you go to a country, it's cheap. Oh, it's okay. Oh, you don't need a prescription at the pharmacy in Thailand, in Vietnam, in China? You don't think that's bad, because they're selling you drugs that you should not be able to buy. You just think, oh, cool, it's cheap and I can bring it back to France, and that's really good because it's so expensive. And there are also the people who think, why buy the notebook if it's fake, because the real one is not that much more expensive. It's just, most people, you know, except if you have a lot of money, whatever you buy, you want to save some money. And so maybe you don't think if it's a computer fake product it's bad, but it's not going to kill you. But if you live at the Thai-Lao border and you're a farmer or you're an illegal immigrant and suddenly you have fever and every day you make 25 baht and then the medicine is 50 baht. The real one. So you think, if I buy the medicine, then I have no money for 2 days. If I buy the fake medicine, which is, you don't know it's fake, but if I buy the cheap one, which is 25 baht, I just lose money for 1 day. So if you don't know the problem of fake medicine, you just think, I need to save money, so I will buy the cheap one, and then I save that money. And unless someone goes and tells you no, if you take the fake one, now you have fever. Tomorrow the fever will be 2 times worse, and in 3 days you die because the medicine is not doing anything. Then you don't know. You don't know. You're not consciously doing it. You're not trying to buy something that is cheaper just because you think, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just you want to save money. And as Mark was saying, it's not, unfortunately, it's not just Farang who come to Thailand and want to have fun. It's the poor Lao people, the poor Thai people, or even the rich ones, but they don't know. And because as you saw on the pictures that Frank showed of the boxes, you will never know. I lived in Africa for 1 year, and they have a lot of malaria there. And because it's very difficult to get the medicine in France, the doctor there tells me you buy it in Africa before you go back on holiday, because if you're sick in France, it's very difficult to get the pills. So I buy in Africa, and I go home. And I never get sick, but then I start working here, and then one of the people that we invite to Asia to train us shows me the malaria pills, Quartem. You could see it earlier on Frank's slide. And so if you look at the 2 pictures, the first box, the real box, is yellow and white, and the real one is dark yellow. And the fake one is light yellow. And suddenly I think, oh, which one do I have at my house? I don't know, because I don't even know what the real color for the real pill is. So if I go to the pharmacy, if tomorrow Frank is sick and he goes to the pharmacy and he needs to buy a box that is usually red and blue, and he goes with Mark, and they don't know this brand, and then suddenly the box is green and yellow. If you don't know that it's supposed to be red and blue, then you buy the green and yellow, and it's fake, but you will never know it unless you become more sick or it doesn't do anything to you. But so this is a huge problem, and of course we think about fake bags and whatever, and of course if you're, and you talk about Easterners who do not have the means to buy the Louis Vuitton bags. It's the same in France. I mean, Frank was saying he was in Paris a week ago, and they sell the fake ones in France too. So of course, even my father, when I told him I work on this, and he's like, okay, fake medicine, I understand, but fake bags, come on. You don't hurt anybody, who cares? You don't have the money to buy real one, so if you buy fake ones, you don't steal the money from the company, because you would never pay for the real one. But this is the first step. Then you don't realize that this is bad, and then you don't realize that when you buy fake medicine it's bad, and then you don't realize that when you buy a fake tire it can be dangerous to your life. So of course I will never buy Louis Vuitton bag either, but you have to think that this is the first step, and as Frank was explaining with the boat, you think it's not that much of a problem, but there are people who are chained to machines to make the fake bags as well. And this is human trafficking, and this is terrible as well. So it's the same with fake medicine or fake everything. Someone has to make it. And if you realize that you have scandals for Nike in China, and suddenly there's a big scandal, they use children. And this is a big company. They have money. But people look at them as well. So there is some sort of things that you can do, like you can complain and whatever. But if you're a small company and you just make fake things, no one will ever say anything. You can do human trafficking for the whole time and no one will know, because no one knows you exist. So it's just a process of everything has to be taken into consideration together. It's not just Louis Vuitton bag on one side and then fake medicine on one side. It's a big problem of counterfeit products that are dangerous in the end for at least one person in the whole process. So this is what.
And look at the map. The first victims of counterfeit products are actually the countries that produce it. So the cost of these substandard products, the fake food, the fake medicine, the countries, particularly like China, who produce it, they are the first victim of it. They have babies dying of fake powder milk, right? So don't think it's only a matter between Asia and the Western world. It's a global problem, but it's particularly accurate here when we look at the health of the people. Maybe a question from that side, from young. Maybe you're still students or. ภาษาไทยอะไรก็ได้ภาษาฝรั่งเศสด้วยค่ะ Vous pouvez parler français, anglais ou Thai. Are you a student from a university? Which university? From Thammasat, okay. Do you study IP or law, medicine? What are you studying? English. All right. So you're learning English with a French accent.
Did you ever hear of counterfeit medicine before you came here? You did.
How did you learn about counterfeit medicine? Because you said you heard about it before. How? Where?
I just heard. I just heard.
Oh, just today? Just now?
Do you go to the hospital, right, from time to time, or to the doctor?
Yes.
Do you sometimes think whether, or you question whether it could be real or fake? Or you always trust the hospital and you always trust the doctor?
Honestly, I always trust. Yes.
We all do.
And this is the problem. This is why counterfeiters are so mean in a way. It's because they really abuse the trust and the credit that we have into, you know, doctors who have studied for 10 years before they can actually practice medicine. This is the problem, because the guy who's making the fake, he absolutely doesn't know anything about medicine. Maybe he knows how to make yaba, and that's it. So yaba may works as good as Viagra. I don't know. I haven't tried neither Viagra nor yaba. But you need to know what you're buying, right? By the way, I also want to say something for the, you know, in general, when you look at IP, the countries that copied IP, think of countries like Japan or Korea, you know, who built their economic power by copying a lot of the Western technologies in the 60s, in the 70s. Today, Japan and Korea are leading countries in the world for patents. They have developed their own innovation. So don't think as Thailand, you know, as IP being only a foreign right or something that only concerns foreigners, because actually it should be very much a concern for you to be able to develop your own innovation, your own technology, your own IP. Thailand, you have a lot of creative people, you know, designers, artists. So understand what IP can bring to you. Work to protect it. Don't think it's just to protect the interest of, you know, multinational, foreign pharmaceutical company. It's not like that, you know. There is a reason why foreign pharmaceutical companies do not produce in Thailand. It's because they are concerned about their IP. Make it a good IP system, and you will have Thai companies doing R&D and producing pharmaceutical. Why do you think India is #1 now for producing company? Right. Yes, this is your question.
Because of the IP law, the lack of the enforcement of the IP in India.
You mean in China?
Yeah, no, I mean in India. You mentioned India.
India is a tricky example actually, because until recently they had a patent law, but pharmaceutical products could not be patented, right? So they had an open system, right? So there was no, it actually helps with generic companies to produce, right? But today, and a few people understand that, you know, generic drugs are. I work for a lot of generic drug companies, and they use IP. They protect the IP. They do patent search. They monitor which patents are lapsing, and they are sometimes involving a lot of money in IP, sometimes even more than other pharmaceutical company. And the regular pharmaceutical companies sell generic drugs as well. You know, it's much more complex than that, right? And whether it's a branded product or a generic, we don't care. I would say for pharmaceutical, I don't care, because it's just a name. What I care is that the product is not a substandard product, that it's being manufactured according to good practices, and that what they claim the medicine can do to me will actually work, that there is active pharmaceutical ingredient in it. So if the real products cost 200 euro per pill, and you cannot afford it, and you buy a fake for 100 euro, but if the fake has nothing in it, you're wasting 100 euro, and you're not helping your health to get better.
I'd like to thank Kunemi and the BACC for this very unusual event to combine a public health issue around a black market business and the IP consequences thereof in a public forum like this is highly unusual. And my gratitude to her and the BACC for sponsoring this event.
And thank you to our translator as well. ขอบคุณครับ